Hello there, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And I'd like to be the first to congratulate you on the 18th of October, which is of course International Necktie Day. A day where the global community of intentionally well-dressed men come together to celebrate the most wonderful necktie. However, it is at risk. Over the last 25 years, I don't think there can be any doubt that the decline in the use of the necktie is reaching its zenith. And I think, there's a chance that we might lose the necktie altogether unless more of us make an effort to wear it and encourage its use amongst those around us, those who are in our orbit of influence. Because when I think of my own life, it actually mirrors the decline in the necktie. So when I went to school, when I went to my secondary school from age 11 onwards, there was a school uniform and I had to wear a shirt and a tie, hand tie, no clip-on ties, none of that business. These days, we see it increasingly. School uniforms now feature just, a polo shirt. No longer are they requiring people to dress like little gentlemen, because that's what we want them to grow up as, isn't it? There's no parent out there who wants their child to grow up as a ruffian. However, we're not dressing them in the way in which we would like to see them grow up. Now, when I left school, I joined the Royal Air Force. And when I joined the RAF, the ordinary daily uniform involved a shirt with a collar and a black tie. Self-tie tie, and it made us feel smart, it made us feel presentable, and it was very much part of the uniform. These days, and I often do visit military bases these days because I work for a military charity, I rarely see any of the airmen who I see walking around wearing a collar and tie. These days, it's all just, military combat uniform. So that sense of pride in one's appearance is beginning to slip away, and the necktie is going. When I left the military, I joined the British Police Service. And when I joined, the uniform incorporated a white shirt with a black tie. Now, it was a clip-on tie, obviously for tactical purposes. You don't want to be throttled by a criminal who's fighting with you and grabs your tie. But still, we wore a clip-on tie, and it gave the appearance of smartness and a collar with a tie. These days, police officers in the UK tend to wear a black polo shirt type of outfit, which is more tactical, yes it is, but definitely that sense of professionalism through appearance alone is dying away. So for the longest time, the necktie has been a visual demonstration to the world that you are smart and presentable. It might even indicate your status. If you've risen to management or leadership in a workplace where the frontline workers wear overalls and you wear a collar and tie, it is a symbol of your status within that organization. And it's always been seen as the visual symbol of the professional man, be you a doctor, a bank manager, an accountant, whatever. The tie has always been part of the uniform of that gentleman, whatever they are. But it seems to be dying away. All of the information that I read these days tends to be negative when it comes to the necktie. And I've got some statistics here. So I read the Times newspaper, it's my daily newspaper here in the UK, and I recently read an article where they talked about dress standards in the workplace. And interestingly, this statistic really painted a picture. Of 3,663 jobs which were advertised in February of 2023, 4 out of 5 of those jobs stated that a relaxed dress code was the only requirement of that job. 4 out of 5. Engineering as a profession was the most relaxed, where the majority of the jobs, 96% of jobs advertised within the engineering sphere, 96% stated casual dress was required of the wearer. And we see it all the time. I read recently that the HSBC Bank, right, one of the largest banks in the world, certainly one of the biggest in the UK, they recently unveiled a brand new uniform for their thousands of staff, and it was a much more casual uniform, which involved just chinos and a shirt for people. Whereas in the past, male employees would have been expected to wear a collar, a tie, and certainly looked as if they worked in the banking industry. Now it's sliding away into the world of casuality. Interestingly, in another publication, a recent poll in the Irish Independent newspaper reported that 74% of people believe that the tie will eventually die out and won't be seen in the workplace within 10 to 20 years. So it's all bad news. Everything I hear, everything I see being demonstrated through statistics and newspaper reports suggests the tie, well, we're going to see the back end of it very soon. So why has this happened? Why is the tie falling out of common use and common acceptance amongst people? And there's many reasons. I mean, if you want to look close to hand, you can see that the pandemic, which happened just a couple of years ago, made a lot of people reevaluate where they worked. And many people now work from home, or they work in a hybrid model where they work 1 or 2 days a week in the office. And as a consequence, people just don't bother dressing up anymore. They're working from home, or if they're just going into the office 1 day a week or 2 days, they're never, seeing their bosses or their co-workers with any regularity. What's the impetus to dress well other than your own desire to do so? And that's falling away. Also, when we look at the influences which are being projected to us from others, our icons and role models and leaders. I vividly remember an image just maybe a year or two ago, which was all of the leaders from a global G7 summit. So the world, top 7 nations in the world, all of the leaders were pictured, all standing together, all of them open collared shirts, no tie. So it just kind of gives us that indication that the tie is falling away. Because I tell you, if you looked at an image like that from a generation ago, you would not have seen any gentleman in that group who wasn't wearing a suit, a collar and a tie, and absolutely trying to look their most dapper for that photograph. Now, it suggests that people are dressing down to be seen as perhaps the common ordinary man amongst those that they represent. Now, also, aside from national leadership, you've got economic leadership. If I was to name 3 of the most prominent entrepreneurs in the world, shall we say Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, these are names which spring to mind. They are the gods of money. They are worshipped because of their fiscal success in the companies they respectively run. But they're also known because they're incredibly slovenly, and I use the word advisedly, slovenly in the way they dress. Now, Jeff Bezos, you do occasionally see him dressed up, but generally these days they are sliding away. They're looking to dress as casually as possible. And I guess it all started with Steve Jobs, one of the first serious CEOs of Apple, who famously wore a black roll neck sweater opposed to a collar and tie. And of course, that many thousands of people and people who buy their products, they look up to these people, they worship them for their success. And of course, when you see them dressed casually, you will do the same because you are trying to emulate what that person represents to you. And we see that casuality of dress. And then we look at the media. Right? Whereas the media used to project people in positions of power as being well dressed, it's all changing. I got some examples for you. I guess it started. I remember it starting in the 1980s when I was a young fellow. I loved watching Miami Vice. All right, we all did. We were in grey and drab Britain, and we looked at Miami Vice, these warm, sunny, exciting, detective program. And we saw Sonny Crockett, and he used to wear, very bright-coloured, pastel-coloured, casual, warm-weather clothing. A jacket, shapeless, unstructured jacket with a T-shirt, white trousers, very glamorous, very colourful. And many people, I remember the 80s and 90s, people started to emulate that look here and in other parts of the world. And again, it was a slide of casuality. Even in the modern world, when you look at television programs, and I accept I'm talking fictionally, but there's a program which has been going for 20-something years, NCIS, the American detective procedural program, which is all based around naval crime. It's been running for over 20 years. The people depicted, the characters, the protagonists within that, members of NCIS, they are federal agents in America, highly qualified, professional, law enforcement people. But if you look at those programs, they don't wear ties at all. They rarely ever are depicted in what one would expect a person in that job to be wearing, to be portraying their role with respect and with, professionalism. And I guess when we look at that, we see this decline in how we would dress. So, if you look at that on the television and you end up going into a job like that, your icon, the people that you've looked up to and think that's what the job entails, you're going to dress to meet that mold. Now, when we look at sales of products, we can accurately track the sales of ties. And I've got some statistics. So, tie sales in the United States of America reached a peak in 1995. And I can imagine why. It was that hedonistic 80s and 90s period, the joyful, people who would bathe in the glow of wealth and dress accordingly. In 1995, the tie market was actually worth 1.3 billion US dollars. Yet by 2009, that had fallen to $418 million. So a vast slip away in just a short period of time. In the UK, things were a little different, I have to say. When I grew up here, and up until my sort of 20s, maybe 30s, there was a store which you saw on every large high street. It was called Tie Rack. And they sold ties, bow ties, and accessories of that nature for gentlemen. Probably, grew up meeting that demand where we saw these high points of tie sales in the USA. But here in the UK, it was a huge store chain. It had 450 stores at its peak. And when it approached the stock market and floated to gain some funds, in 1987, they floated on the stock market, and it was their intention to do so to raise £12.5 million. £12.5 million. They were oversubscribed by people who wanted to buy into Tie Rack by 84%. Sorry, 84 times more people applied for shares than they had to sell. And they could have raised more than £1 billion if they had released that many shares to people. But they were only looking to raise 12.5 million, but they could have raised over £1 billion. Yet by 2012, Tie Rack had basically gone bust. They were posting an operating loss every year, and they'd ceased operation by 2013. They disappeared, and they're now a gone part of high street history. So yes, I would say all of the evidence suggests that the necktie is on its way out of our culture. So I know what you're thinking. With all of this information I've just given you about the death of the necktie, should we, as intentionally well-dressed men, cut our losses, accept that the necktie is being consigned to the waste bin of sartorial history, and move forward and start embracing the open-collared look ourselves? Well, no, gentlemen. I'm going to argue for the opposite side of the argument. What I suggest is that human habits are long-lasting, and it will be a very long time, if ever, that the necktie in the future is considered to be obsolete, because I think that it still represents one of the few parts of your outfit where you've got the opportunity to express your individuality, your charisma, and show to the world that you take a pride in your appearance. It's the part of your wardrobe that you get to add a little bit of colour, a little bit of pattern, and a little bit of texture to an outfit, and elevate it amongst all of those navy suits and charcoal grey suits with a white shirt and open collar, which all of the other guys are wearing. The tie will set you apart. It will make you stand out from the crowd. Now, I know that it is maybe an old book, but there's a very interesting bit of human research in here. John T. Malloy's New Dress for Success. It was published in the 80s. It's still a magnificent read if you're interested in the social experiments around dressing well. And John T. Malloy actually carried out a social experiment which I think still resonates to this day, and it would work equally as well, if not more so now, than it did in the 1980s when he did this. And what John T. Malloy basically did, he employed an actor, and he dressed the actor in a shirt with no tie. He stood him outside a large bus depot in America and asked this actor to approach people and say to people, look, I'm terribly sorry, I've lost my wallet, I can't get home, can you just give me some money or loan me some money to allow me to make my journey home? On the first day he did that, that actor raised $8.42. Now on day number 2, same actor, same time of day, same scenario. The only difference, he added a necktie to the actor's outfit. And the actor did the same thing. He approached people and asked them the same question. I've run out of money, lost my wallet, can you help me out? On day 2, the actor was able to achieve $34.60, opposed to day 1, just to remember, where he opposed $8.40. A vast double trebling of the amount of money which he was able to raise, because people saw the tie as an indication that he was smart and a professional. And I'll spin that forward to the modern era. Put yourself in this position. Imagine that you are in need of a doctor. You have an urgent surgery which is required, and you're going to meet the man who's your surgeon. You walk into his office, and the man is sat there behind his desk wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Does that instill within you a sense of confidence? Or if you went in to see that surgeon and he was sat there in a suit with a collar and a tie, what does it say to you? For me, the collar and tie is a sign that this man respects me. He's dressed into the position which he holds, an eminent surgeon. Now, there'll be those amongst you who will say, it doesn't matter. I care about his ability as a surgeon. Well, shall we say they're both equally qualified as a surgeon? However, the one with the collar and tie, I'm going to have more confidence in, because they've dressed in a respectful and professional way, and it makes me feel better about the interaction I'm going to have, rather than some chap who's just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. It just doesn't fill me with confidence. And I think that is still the case when you see people who dress for the role which they hold in a way which is respectful for that position and respectful to you as perhaps a service user for that position. They're always going to be the winner when it comes to the sartorial level that they have achieved. It's well worth it. It proves to me that it's worth remembering how to tie a tie and to put one on and to step out into the world showing your best side. Now, the tie has its origins in Croatia, where Croatian mercenaries fighting for the French used to identify themselves by wearing a red cravat around their neck. We get the name cravat from the word Croat, which is how people described the Croatian mercenaries who wore these things, these scarves around their neck. And we've taken the word cravat and it's become the necktie over the years. And that's the origin story. But today, on the 18th of October, every year, it's International Necktie Day. So what I would beseech you gentlemen to do is, as you step out into the world today or tomorrow, maybe if you've watched this video late into the day, do it tomorrow instead. Wear a necktie, and when your colleagues say to you, why are you wearing a tie today? Say, well, it's International Necktie Day. And if I don't wear it, it's going to be lost to the world forever. So as an intentionally well-dressed man, it's your responsibility to maintain standards and make sure the tie is with us long into the future. So there we go, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the death of the necktie and the fact that it's up to us to stop that happening. If you have enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, click the old subscribe button. If you'd like to support the channel, you can leave me a comment in the comment section. You can send me an email. Email on the screen now. You can buy me a coffee, or you can even become a patron, which costs, I think, as little as £3 a month. And for that, I make additional video content every week, especially for my patrons, as well as answering their questions on a case-by-case basis. So, until the next time, take care, get the tie on, gents, or we're going to lose it forever. And I will see you again very soon.